Hi everyone, welcome back to Almost Normal. I have had a handful of near-death experiences in my life. One involved a boat, another involved drugs and alcohol, which was a really fun one, and I just experienced another one the other day, which involved a ladder, of all things, and not in the way that you would suspect a near-death experience would involve a ladder. So the other day, I was driving to school. It was 8 a.m.-ish, beautiful sunny day, clear freeway, no traffic, everything was calm and tranquil, listening to my podcast, sipping a latte, having a great time. Not late, in no rush, no problems. Everything just great. And I was driving down the fast lane and there was a car driving in front of me. And all of a sudden, this car in front of me swerves so fast out of the lane. And because he was in front of me the whole time, I was not able to see what was beyond him until he moved. And once he had moved, I could see why he decided to swerve very quickly. And it was because there was a full-size 10-foot industrial ladder acting as a literal barricade across the fast lane. Like a huge metal ladder. Not just like a little funny plastic shitty one. This was like an industrial piece of equipment just lying straight across the lane. Because it was so close to me now, I did not have a lot of options as to what to do. First of all, I could have stopped, but there was a man tailgating me. He was literally driving like 1.5 inches away from the back of my car. And I was like, if I just stop, he's going to smash into the back of my car and it's going to be absolutely horrible. It's going to be like a wreck. So I was like, okay, let's just maybe swerve to the right and look at my side mirror. And there is a car zooming like 100 miles an hour to my right. And this is all happening in like 20 seconds. So it's like, I don't have time to move to the right. I will smash into that car. I don't have time to stop because that guy's going to smash into me. And I have literally no idea what happens if I just drive straight over this ladder. I was assuming that the car would just flip or something. I was driving about 70 miles an hour. It's pretty fast to go over something so big. I really didn't know what to do. I honestly had not been trained in this. During my DMV test, there was literally no section saying like, hi, if there's an industrial sized ladder about 10 feet in front of you and you're driving 70 miles an hour and there's a car to the right of you and there's a car behind you, like, this is what you do. I was never told that. So it really, really was like, we just got to figure this out on our own. There's no time to call dad. There's no time to call anyone and ask what the hell to do. So in a split decision, I decided to risk hitting the guy on the right of me because there was more of a chance that he would go past me before I change lanes, as opposed to me slowing down and having the guy behind me hit me, because I knew that he would. Obviously, to change lanes, I had to slow down a touch, and the guy behind me beeped the shit out of me. He was like, what the fuck are you doing? He then somehow went around me, and then he saw the ladder, and I could see him like apologizing profusely. He was like, I'm sorry. But anyway, I slightly switched lanes to the right. I couldn't get all the way in time, so half of my car was in the other lane, and half my car went over the ladder. And the ladder flew into the air. It was the craziest thing I had ever seen, into pieces. I'm so lucky that it didn't land back down on top of my car. I checked if there was anyone behind me as well, and there wasn't, apart from that one guy that was tailgating me, but he had somehow managed to get around me. It was the scariest moment of my life. Anything on the freeway, anything that happens that's not usual on the freeway scares the absolute Christ out of me. Like, literally terrifying. Because you're just like, if something goes wrong on the freeway, it's going to go really wrong. It's not like, oh, getting a little like fender bender or something like that. It's nothing like that. Like, people are driving crazy, and people drive crazy in LA, especially on the freeway, especially in the morning. People feel like they have really, really important things to get to, which they will risk their lives for. It was terrifying. I drove the rest of the way to school, ghost white, literally just like this. Like, no music, no podcast, no coffee, just absolutely white knuckling it back all the way to school, because I was like, oh, I almost died. My brain also has these moments where, and I get them a lot when I'm driving, let's say something quite dangerous happened on my way home to school. And I don't know, I probably got this from a movie I watched as a child. I can't think of what it is. Maybe Beetlejuice, actually, because they get in a car accident and then they think that they survived it and they go home and then they're dead. That might be it, actually. But my brain does this thing where if I get into a scary situation, my brain will start to convince myself that I did actually die in the accident, and now I'm just like living my life, but I'm not actually. I just think I am, but I'm actually just a ghost. So I kind of felt like that also for the rest of the day. I was like, is this all real? Does anything feel different to me? So anyway, for the rest of the day, I was not well. And it doesn't sound that bad when I'm telling you, but it was honestly so scary. Like, I broke down on the freeway one time, and that alone was absolutely horrifying, because just being stuck, not moving, while there's cars speeding all around you is so scary. And that only happened to me one time, and ever since then, I have been so fucking careful to just make sure that there's enough gas in my tank to get to my destination. That was what happened. I didn't actually break down. I tell everyone I broke down, but actually I just ran out of gas because I'm a fucking idiot. I called AAA and I was like, oh my God, I think my car, there's something broken. I don't know what to do. And the tow truck was like, it's totally fine. Like, it does look like you do have low gas. And I'm like, I know, but like, I know this car, it usually runs for a specific amount of time on low gas. So I really don't think it's that. Like, honestly, I think it's something else. I think we have to go to the car dealership and like get it fixed. And he was like, okay, like, you know what, let's just put some gas in, see if that works, and if not, I'll take you to the mechanics. I was like, okay, thank you so much. So anyway, I ride with him to the gas station. He put some gas in, and the car works. And that was probably one of the most embarrassing things I've ever done. I'm the most type B person in the entire world. Like, credit card, not sure where it is. Keys, lose them at least 5 times a week. Phone, always at 1% charge. Same with my laptop. I'm just the most disorganized person. Gas tank, always yelling at me, telling me to fill it up. Like, I am just the least organized person I know. It's a problem. I don't know if there's a solution to that. I'm incredibly worried about when I have children, because as a child, one of the worst things that my parents always did, which is now I'm realizing where I get my type B personality from, but one of the worst things was my parents were so fucking forgetful and disorganized, that I would go into school so many times and I would have a school trip and I had no idea about it, and I was meant to pay like the school trip fee and all of that. And because my parents were so fucking type B, they would always forget to pay. They would always forget to check dates and see if I had a school trip or not, if they had to do anything, if they had to sign a permission slip or something like that. You know, my whole school life was just me frantically calling home, being like, Mom, you have to pay £5 for this trip, otherwise I'm not going to be able to go. I don't want to do that for my children because it was so annoying and anxiety inducing. And so I need to like snap out of it. Luckily, my husband is he's not type A. I wouldn't say he's type A, but he's very organized in that sense. Like, he always has all the cards he needs. He bought me an insurance AAA card. I lost that within a week. Like, I have absolutely no fucking idea where that's gone. Like, I just use his still. My driver's license, like, I rarely know where that is. Getting a $500 ticket as well did not teach me anything. I ran a stop sign and the police stopped me, and it was probably going to be a really cheap driving ticket, but because I didn't have my driver's license on me, it ended up being about $500. And you'd think after that I would have learned, but I haven't. I'm just one of those people that don't know like where my fucking feet are. I don't know. I need help. I think a lot of my codependency problems are based on that, because I literally feel like I would just get kidnapped a lot just because I'm so like up in the clouds all the time. I don't even know. I actually remember this was one of those moments where I was like, I'm so loopy, disorganized, and codependent. This is a moment where I have to like reflect on myself. We were going to Mexico, which I know now. We were going to Mexico. My husband was like, I'm gonna go park the car. Okay, can you go in, start checking in the bags? So I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Don't even worry about it. I got this covered. I go into the airport with all the bags, and the guy at the front of the bag check-in is like, hey, where are you going? I couldn't answer the question because I did not know where I was going. I was like, I could not answer where I was going. And it was quite embarrassing. And he obviously thought I was like a child. Yeah, he was laughing at me so much. I had to, hang my head in shame in that moment. I literally think that I had to call my husband and be like, hey, where are we going? That can't happen. That can't happen, especially when I have kids. Like, I have to have my fucking head screwed on because, like, that can't happen. I cannot go to the airport with my children and be like, I don't know where we're going. Do you know where we're going, Timmy? Hopefully my children will be super type A. That would be really great for me because then they can just let me know, like, what's going on and stuff like that. We went on a tangent, but following on from last week's episode freaked me the fuck out. Honestly, it really did. I say a lot of shit on this podcast, I know. A lot of it I do practice, you know. A lot of it I do as I say. But last week's episode made me jump into action so fast because it was probably one of the scariest things I have really, like, come to realize is that I think that I have been wishing my life away ever since I was about 15 years old. And I'm now 27. I don't think that I have been able to live in the moment very many times since being a child, maybe never. I'm always looking for the next thing. I'm always looking to a future goal. I am never just sitting and enjoying myself. If I am with all my friends in the sun, having a pool day, drinking boba tea and eating cake, like, even in that moment, I will be waiting for something else to come. I will be daydreaming about future endeavors. I will have a sense of doom that I feel like I have to complete something, even in those moments, even in the most amazing, relaxing, fun moments. I will be somewhere else. My physical body and my mind are very rarely in the same place. And I think that's a huge problem because if my mind remained with my physical body all the time, then I would always be in the present. I wouldn't be able to be coming up with new scenarios, coming up with new problems I have to deal with if my mind was just with me all the time. Because if my mind was physically with me, all it could focus on was right now. My cup of coffee. It could just be thinking about the taste and the smell and how it's making me feel. It wouldn't be thinking about how much homework I have to get done by Wednesday of next week, or, oh, I have to film this podcast episode in 5 days, so let's just, like, worry about that till we get there. It would be able to just actually enjoy everything that I'm experiencing right now, sitting here and doing this podcast with you guys. Like, even doing this podcast with you guys, I'm literally thinking about doing the next podcast episode while I'm sitting here talking to you guys, which is absolutely mental because it's like, I know that I have spent time thinking about this podcast episode and being like, that's the goal. Let's get this done. Let's get this done really well and be proud of what we make today. And now that I'm sitting here doing it with you guys, I'm already thinking about the next one, which is wild because it's like, that is so clear. It's so clear to me now that that will never stop. That is a dangerous, vicious cycle. Because if I think about any goal I've ever had in my life, the minute I've achieved it, I instantly start thinking about the next thing to do. And I don't give myself time to revel in it, to be proud of myself. I made a podcast episode maybe a month or two ago about how I really find it very, very hard to be proud of myself. Like, I really don't give myself the time to say, like, congratulations, you've done a fucking good job. Like, let's really sit here and enjoy this moment because you put in the work, you put in the time, and we've achieved the thing that we wanted to achieve. Let's just be here right now. Let's hear the congratulations. Let's eat the celebratory cake. I'm talking about cake a lot today. I think I'm hungry. Let's just be here right now. And let's not just move on to the next thing straight away. And I don't think I'm able to do that. It's really tough. And it's really scary because I feel like it makes life go by much faster, which we don't really want. Life is short and life is sweet. We don't want it to go any faster. My mind is constantly just leading me forward, and it doesn't want to relax. Perhaps it doesn't know how to relax. I have no idea. Perhaps I haven't been treating my mind the way I should have in order for it to want to hang out with me, you know? Maybe it's like, fuck this, like, I'm gonna go and find something else for us to do, find something else for us to worry about. It really struck me last week when I was talking about this with you guys, because I'd never really properly said it out loud. And as I briefly mentioned in the beginning of last week's episode, an event had happened that really made me take a fucking look at my life and really made me realize how ungrateful I feel all the time how I always feel like I can't be happy until I achieve this. I can't be happy until I buy this thing. I can't be happy until I have this friend. I can't be happy until I get this grade. And that is just purely a problem of being ungrateful. Because if I was grateful for everything I had, I wouldn't rely on future things to make me happy, because I would be like, look how fucking lucky I am right now. Look at all the stuff I have. Look at all the friends I have. Look at the family I have. Like, I am so lucky right now in this moment right now. And like, if I really truly thought that way, then I don't think my mind would be going off to look for new things to do, because it would be satisfied. And the problem with always trying to find new things to do too is it's a constant sense of dissatisfaction, because we are just always relying on future endeavors to bring us joy. And to be honest, we don't even know if those future endeavors we're wishing for will happen. So in that case, we're basing our happiness on things that we might not even ever see, might never see the light of day. And that's really terrifying and sad and scary. So anyway, after I did last week's episode, I did a little research. I just wanted to figure out, like, what small ways I can sort of approach this. A problem I've had ever since being a child is fantasy. I have always loved to fantasize. I have always loved to create these worlds in my head. And I would say a lot of people in my recovery program also mentioned that when they were kids, their first addiction was fantasy. The first thing that they loved to do was they were addicted to bringing their mind elsewhere, somewhere where their physical body was not, whether that was because there were problems at home, we were just unhappy with how our physical bodies were, whatever it was. But something we did on a daily basis was transport our minds elsewhere, somewhere maybe we feel safer, somewhere maybe we feel happier or whatever. And I have definitely brought this sort of addiction to fantasy into my adult life. However, I don't feel like I have as much control over it as I did when I was a child. And I feel like my mind likes to take me to dark places. It likes to take me to scary places that I don't want to be in. It likes to take problems from this fantasy world that it has created. And it likes to bring those problems from the fantasy world, bring them back to my physical body, and then expects my physical body to go and deal with those problems, which obviously it will never be able to do, because my physical body will always have to stay here on this earth. I am not able to go to these fantasy worlds that my mind brings me to, that my mind wants to bring me to. But either way, it brings back the problems and it says, hey, can you fix this? And I'm like, not really, but I'm going to panic about it now, because now you've convinced me that this is a real life issue that I have to do something about. But guess what? I can't do anything about it because it's actually not real. So what do we do now? And then that is just me panicking all day about something that doesn't exist. And I think that is very, very connected to this sort of idea of not even being able to be in the present ever, because my brain is always looking for new things to worry about. I wanted to figure out tools to bring my mind back down to my physical body, almost trick my mind and say, hey, like there's a bunch of cool stuff that we could think about right here, right now in this room where my physical body are. Like, let's hang out together and there's a lot for you to play with here. And I was reading a lot on mindfulness. And when I was a kid in prep school and stuff, they spoke a lot about mindfulness, and I always thought it was a big load of bullshit, to be honest. I was just like, this is the most corny ass shit. Like, my annoying teachers telling me to do something in order for me to get better grades in my exams. Like, it's bollocks. Like, they just want me to get good grades so that the school looks better. Like, I'm not gonna do this fucking mindfulness shit. Like, I'm fine. I was very wrong, but whatever. I was an angsty teenager and I didn't listen to anything or anyone, especially no sort of authority figure, especially not one that was at boarding school that just wanted me to get really good grades so that the Ofsted score could go up, you know? Like, I was very much that person. Like, fuck you. Like, you're not trying to help me. You're trying to help yourself. Like, I'm not listening to you. Whatever. As an adult, as a fairly clear-minded adult person. And also, as someone who isn't being told to practice mindfulness by anyone, I'm just doing it myself. I have now found out that mindfulness is an absolutely incredibly amazing tool. And I apologize to my teachers before when I told them to go fuck themselves. You might have been right about some things, but I just wasn't ready. It's like getting sober. You can't do it if someone tells you to do it. You have to just do it when you feel like it's right. And right now I feel like mindfulness is really, really right for me. So anyway, mindfulness is the idea of just grounding yourself and your mind, bringing everything back down to the physical world where you really are. This is such a small little change you can make to your day-to-day life. And it's so impactful. Like, I've been doing it for literally a week, and I can notice that my mind is doing it naturally now. Like, I'm not even having to force it to do it. It's quite incredible. So what I'll do now is when I'm out somewhere and I feel like my mind is going off to outer space and it's gonna meet a new alien who's gonna tell it some fucking story that I'm then gonna have to deal with physically, which I obviously won't be able to physically because I'm not gonna be able to go to space and meet this alien that my mind says it met, but I can't tell if it's lying to me or not. I have too much trust in my mind at the moment. That's a problem. When I feel like that's happening, when I feel like my mind is going off onto different worlds, I need to get it to notice things that are happening in my real life as opposed to what's happening on planet Pluto. And it sounds so simple, but it so works. All you have to do is, in order to entice your mind back to yourself, is give it sensory experiences of things that are physically around you. And it'll start to almost entice your brain just to come back and think really deeply about all of those little sensory experiences that your body is having. So let's say the other day I went to go meet my friend for a coffee date, and I got to the cafe and I noticed that my brain was going somewhere else. So what I did is I started to feel my hands, they were warm, a little moist, a little anxious today. I started to wiggle my toes on the floor. How does that feel? I started to look around me at everything that was physically in the room with me. I started to look at all the pastries, and I really started to analyze each one, each flavor, and really got my mind to think about what are the textures, what are the colors. I started to listen to conversations happening around me physically in the room. What are they talking about? What is their relationship with each other? Literally just the smallest things, the noise of the coffee machine. And in those moments, if you need to, you can close your eyes, you can take a deep breath, you can start to feel the air on your skin when someone opens the door to come in. It's these small sensory understandings that'll slowly bring your mind back. It's as simple as you're giving your mind something to think about. And you might be like, okay, but do I have to do this all the time? And what I have noticed since starting it is if I do a session of that, I'm sitting in the cafe and I'm starting to wander, my mind's starting to go someplace, and I do that ritual, I pick a color and I try and find that color everywhere in the room. So let's say I say red. I will sit there, I will look around the room, and I will find everything in the room that's red. I'll say, okay, that chair is red. Those flowers are red. That guy's sweater is red. And that automatically brings my mind right back to where I physically am, sitting in that cafe. And I find that it lasts for quite a long time. I don't feel like the minute I stop doing that ritual, my mind just goes away again. I actually really have noticed that it remains with me. It's kind of a wonderful thing because as well as bringing your mind back to where you are, it allows you to just really be grateful for everything around you. The taste of your food, the sun shining through the windows. And it sounds so sort of corny and cliche, I have to say, even as I'm saying it outside of my mouth, even as I'm saying it out loud. But this shit works, this shit works. And having a brain that doesn't always want to be on your side is really hard. And especially if it never wants to be on your side. And I have noticed that I am so much more appreciative of everything I have. And I don't just want to get things over with and move on to the next thing as much as I used to. Because I'm using my experience right now to calm myself, to give myself peace. And for that, I am eternally grateful. I'm eternally grateful for my friend talking to me about her life and having myself be able to listen to her properly. I'm eternally grateful for this coffee, for tasting the way it does, for feeling the way it does, because it's giving a hook. It's giving my mind a hook to come back. And like, all I need is my mind to come back and hang out with my physical body. Because in those moments where we're together, where we're in unison, I'm actually able to appreciate where I sit. I feel like in my personal experience of life, nothing that I've worried about has ever been as bad as my brain has made it out to be. Horrible things can happen in life, but when our physical bodies and our minds are together and like working in harmony, they have tools to help you get through hard times. And to live a life where we're constantly worried about things that may or may not happen is not really a life. It's like survival. It's literally survival. To just constantly be in panic, fight or flight mode, that is literally your brain trying to survive. And I don't think we want to survive. I think we want to fucking live. At least I do. No matter how corny or silly it sounds, if there's a way that I can properly live my life, if there's a way that I can stop panicking all the time, if there's a way that I can feel content and grateful, I will be doing it, okay? Even if it involves me having to close my eyes in the middle of the grocery store and take a few breaths, understand what I'm smelling, understand what I'm hearing, feeling my clothes. Even if I have to slightly embarrass myself in public to do it, I will be doing it. Because my life and your life is so important, and it's not to be wasted, especially on worrying. Everything your mind worries about is never going to be as bad as it really is. And I have experienced that every single time. I will panic about something, like to the point where I can't leave my bed. I'm completely just a wreck. I'm a mess. I'm like beside myself with fear. And then I get to the thing that I've been spending my whole time freaking out about, and it isn't that bad. I get through it. I survive it. And for something as simple as just like taking a second to assess your surroundings, if that's all it takes to live in a life of gratitude and to be content, like, sign me up. Sign me the fuck up. Seriously. Like, I'm so happy and so lucky right now. And I'll be damned if I let my wandering mind ruin that for me. If you've not tried it, I really suggest that you do. And if you find yourself in panic in public, do it anyway. No one gives a fuck, to be honest. You know, just know that I do it too, okay? If you're in the library at school and you need to sit down and close your eyes and take deep breaths and really look at everything that's happening around you and like feel your arms and your legs and wiggle your feet and your toes, if you need to do that and there's people around you, just fucking do it, because it's worth it. And just know that I'm doing it as well. Like, it's totally fine. People aren't really going to notice. And if they do, you should just say, oh, you should try this, by the way. It's great. I feel super calm right now. But our minds and our physical bodies should be in unison. They should be together. And they so rarely are. And I think that's what causes us to not be able to live in the present, because you need both your mind and your body to really be in the present. And our minds just want to wander. Our minds just want to go find problems. It's just what it does. It's sort of its natural thing. I don't know why. I'm sure with people with anxiety and OCD and things that I have, like, they do it a little bit more, but my brain doesn't want to stay at home, okay? It is a rebel. It wants to sneak out of the house at night when I go to bed, or when I'm still awake. It wants to do all of these things that hurt me, but it doesn't really care. And I have to understand that I can be more in control of my mind than I think. And I have let my mind run riot for way too long now, and it's time for that to be over. I can't expect that it's never going to wander off again. It's going to wander off probably once a day, more than that. It's just the sort of natural way our minds work. They are able to visit vast faraway planets. It's able to do that. And if you were able to do that, wouldn't you do that too? Yeah, sure. But the thing is that your mind is yours, it's not its own thing. It can't be alone. It needs guidance from your brain. It needs guidance from your body. It needs guidance from your blood and your heart and all of that stuff. And when it goes off on its own, it really doesn't know how to deal with anything. It panics, it freaks out, it really does not know how to survive, which is why it's constantly putting your brain into survival mode, because your brain is like, mind, are you okay? Like, I'm gonna come save you. And it's like, no, we can't save him, okay? We can't save him. I'm sitting in a cafe on Sunset Boulevard. Like, I can't save him. I'm at school in class. I can't go anywhere right now. I'm in the middle of my economics class. I can't leave and go and help him. I don't have Grandpa Rick with a spaceship to like go and find him. Like, I don't have that. I'm just a human being. And so when mind gets into trouble, there's not a lot I can do. The one thing I can do is just entice him to come back. Just try and give him something to do. I think that's the base of it. And you're trying to give your mind something to do. It's like a child, it wants to wander away. You want to give it something to do. No matter how mundane, no matter how regular it is, you want to give it something to do so it doesn't create its own adventures. You want to have it appreciate the most mundane moments in life. And if your mind and your physical body are together, you are just going to enjoy life more. You're just going to have a better time because they have to work together. And it's just these small little tools that you can do to help that happen, to bring them back into one place. Yeah. Life is to be enjoyed. I feel very strongly about this. Life is to be enjoyed. Life is to be appreciated. We are so lucky to just be alive. It's like 1 in a gazillion chances that you would have made it out of vagina and into this world. Let's utilize that time. And there's so much great stuff happening like here that we don't need to create these fantasy worlds. It's really unnecessary. There's a lot of amazing shit happening here. And if we let our minds rule the show, then we're going to miss everything because we're going to be trying to figure out what's happening on Saturn when we're not going to be able to. And while we're figuring that out, we're going to just let everything pass by. And we don't want to do that. There's really great stuff happening in the world. There's great people to meet. There's great foods to eat. There's great places to see. It's just, this world is incredible. And I don't want to miss it. And I feel like I've been missing it for a long time. And I'm ready to be here now. I'm ready to really take it in. And if you are as well, I really suggest doing a little mindfulness. It's the most simple thing in the world. It feels like I didn't explain it very much, but that's truly what it is. Just bringing your mind back, enticing it back into the room with you. Think of all the 5 senses and just entice it with each of those 5 senses. Smell, sight, taste, hearing, noise, and feel. Did I already say that? Eyes, smell, what the fuck am I saying? Smell, sight, taste, feel, and sound. Make sure you tick off something on each of those, and your mind will be busy. It'll be busy with something that's really happening. And that's what we want. That is the goal. That's the aim. I think if you do that, you'll find that you will be able to concentrate more on whatever it is you have to do. That's another thing. It's like, if my mind is somewhere else, I'm going to panic even more just naturally, because if I do have something to do, I won't be able to focus on it very well. And then that'll add more stress, because I'll be like, not only am I worrying about what mind is doing, but I'm also like not able to focus on this thing, which I actually genuinely have to physically do. Like, I have to give in this essay tomorrow. You know what I mean? And so if we're all helping each other, mind and body, like, we're going to do a much better job. 2 heads are better than 1. And so having the physical body try and do this essay without mind, while mind is like gallivanting in outer space, like, that's not helpful. We need him to come home. We need him to come back. My mind is a man for some reason. I don't know why. I just see him as a boy. I don't know why. It's interesting, actually. Probably because he's like so like boisterous, really just wants to do his own thing. Yeah, I really suggest trying that. It's really been very life-changing. And I've only been doing it for like a week, and I've been feeling much better. Much better. I really have had moments where I just notice, I'm like, oh, I haven't been thinking about faraway lands for a while, actually. And it's kind of just like naturally happening where I'll just honestly just suddenly realize that it's been a whole day and I haven't drifted off into outer space today. And it can happen that fast. And it's obviously something you have to keep up. It's a ritual, you know? But I think the more you do it, the more likely it is that your mind will just naturally sort of like kick in like that. But yeah, I love you guys so much. I hope all is well. I'm sorry if I didn't say anything too much today, but I really love you guys, and life is to be enjoyed. We should be enjoying every second and feel grateful for every second, and we don't want life to pass us by. So I really love you guys. I hope I didn't repeat myself too much from last week, but just been something that's really been on my mind, and yeah. So anyway, I love you guys. Oh, if you haven't subscribed, please make sure you do. It's super helpful to me, and you can see anytime I post anything. So if you haven't subscribed, please make sure you do. And I love you guys so much, and I will see you next time. Okay, I love you. Bye.